How much control do you think you have over your life? It's an interesting question. It's easy to, at least for some of us, and I suppose I'm one of them. It's sometimes easy to fall into a bit of a victim mentality when you feel like when you have circumstance in your life and you don't know, there's not a clear path to, like, to solving a problem in front of you. It's very easy to kind of lapse back into the victim mentality. Like, oh, poor me. I have this situation. It doesn't go away. And it's something I would say I've definitely experienced some of that for sure in my life. Um, Hopefully less than what I used to in the past. But agency is such an interesting thing to think about. So, um, there's a real agency, and then there's imagined agency, and then there's uh, is there a case to be made for having more agency than you imagine? I mean, for imagining that you have more agency than you actually do. Um, so when it comes to agency, so basically, what am I talking about agency? Well, basically, I mean the ability for you to change your life through your own actions. Now, there's an interesting wrinkle here. So, for me, I believe that my purpose here is to serve God, and to love God, and experience Him, and to live the abundant life, and but to be serving Him first and foremost, right? So, it's kind of odd to be thinking about. So that's kind of an interesting question in terms of agency. Is like traditionally the self-help gurus would say that agency is important. It helps you to do more, accomplish more, and be more. Whereas the Bible doesn't teach self-reliance. I would say it teaches God reliance. So how does God reliance work and agency? So I do not claim to have all this jazz figured out. But anyway, back to the overall concept of um, agency versus victim. If I believe I can change my circumstances, and then I also have the responsibility for something to improve, that I have the responsibility to change those as well. So I can no longer just blame the world at large, and that comes back down to my choices. And so that's where it's actually easier to be a victim, is because it doesn't require necessarily any action. I can be a victim in a very passive state. If I have agency and there's something in my life that I don't like, and then that means it's also my responsibility that my life isn't the way I want it to be. And so the thing is, there are many things in our life that we don't control. There are many things that seem like what the outside person would say is luck. Um, what I might say is a God ordained circumstance. But anyway, there's many things that we don't personally control. The actions of other humans, which are pretty indisputably an important part of anyone's well being and success, those are in some manner outside our degree of control. In fact, you could argue largely. But let me see if I can kind of tame all my stray thoughts here and kind of get them into something a little bit cohesive. This idea of empowerment is not far off from what I'm talking about. It's the idea that I can change my circumstances and that I'm responsible to do so if I want them to be changed. And the fascinating thing is that even though I may have a limited ability to change the external circumstances around me, if I believe I have the ability to change them, I will behave in such a way as to, if you will, kind of put pressure. So let's say I'm trying to move a large object out of the way. Um, I may not be able to move it out of the way right away, but if I keep exerting pressure on it, if there's an earthquake or it gets hit with lightning, the object's going to tend to move in the direction I want it to move. So it's almost like when you believe that you can change something, you take the action that sort of exerts pressure on that thing to make it change. And over time, um, that which you took action towards tends to open up and you get the result that you want. I'm sure there's got to be some far more elegant way of describing it, but you think about the people around you being so important for many of our success and many of our well-being, and we can't control other people, but yet at the same time we can influence. It's a little bit like health. You can't control your health, but you can influence your health. And so If I believe that I can improve my health, I'm much more likely to take action to improve my health. If I believe my health is just what it is, I can't improve it if I don't feel good or I don't this or that, I'm actually likely to engage in behaviors that don't improve my health. So in the same way, there are many things in life where if we believe we can improve them, or an alternate version, of course, is that we believe God will improve them. So maybe to back up, I think that practically speaking, the idea that I have the ability to influence things for the better is it's a very useful way of looking at life. And I think it's also true to some extent, but it has some real limitations in terms of how actually true it is. At the same time, I think there is a danger there that one can become overly self-reliant, and that one becomes sort of self-made, and you can have all the success in life that you want, but if your life is spiritually hollow, I would argue you're not successful at all. And so, if you don't want to be spiritually hollow, dependence on God is actually an important part of the equation. So, it's not always neatly in balance or tied neatly in my mind. I do think there's the proper perspective is somewhere on the lines of, I believe that things in my life can change for the better. I believe that God is going to make them change for the better because I'm asking Him to. And I will take action congruent with that improvement. In other words, things that make sense. In other words, if this good thing happens, what would I do? Or what would I do to help make this good thing happen? In other words, I will take action in faith of this good thing happening, and then I think that opens the door, in a sense, for God to work, because He likes to work when there's faith. And also, it does help influence our environment, helps influence the people around us. It may even influence the cells in our bodies, etc. And it can influence our brain as far as how what problems our brain is working on solving, if you tell it that indeed we're going to solve this problem. So anyway, I've got a situation right now that's making me feel, it can easily make me feel kind of powerless. And it's the sort of thing that I should be able to solve, maybe kind of, but it looks really big. And so I have asked God and to solve that problem, and I am believing for Him to solve that problem, I would say. But it's also it does raise questions about, well, what's my responsibility in all of this, and how can I work towards solving this problem? So anyway, perhaps as much as anything today is a reminder for me to walk forward in faith, to take action to solve the problem, but to not ultimately depend on me and my smarts, but depend on God and His provision. So, anyway, there are my rambles. I hope you got a little something out of it. And drop a comment with your thoughts. Do you depend on God? Do you depend on yourself? And what do you find to be most, if you're a Bible person, what do you find to be the most biblically correct perspective? If you're not a Bible person yet, what do you find to have been the most useful perspective for you in your life so far? Take care.